All right, earlier in the show, we talked about how Ben Rothwell was moved because UFC 189 was so intense. So that will bring us to our top 5 of the week, which is the top 5 UFC events. Brendan,
Ooh, let's do
since
this.
you're back with us, you get to go first this time.
I don't know if any of these made me cry, but they definitely moved me a little bit. Number 5, UFC 129. I was here in person. It was the craziest scene I've ever seen when GSP walked out in Toronto. Biggest live crowd ever. I think it's like 80-something thousand. I was in the very top deck.
68,000.
It's insane. Insane. 68,000. Never seen anything like it. That one was definitely one for the history books, as they say. Number 4, UFC 157. Ronda Rousey's first fight. Brendan Schaub was also on that. But the thing is Ronda Rousey's first fight, this is kind of what started it all for her against Liz Carmouche. It was one for the history books because she was the main event. A lot of people forget this. She was the main event over Dan Henderson and Lyoto Machida, and everyone was up in arms about it. I know a lot of fighters were upset about it. Now it makes sense. The girl can fight, and she's 1 in a billion. At number 3, UFC 100 might be the greatest fight card ever. This one might have made me cry just because there's so many stars on it, from GSP to Alves to Dan Henderson, Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar. I mean, there's just so many big names. If you didn't buy this pay-per-view, for sure lose my number. At number 2, UFC 1. This one moved everyone. Kenny won't shut the heck up about it. He talks about it every UFC Now. UFC 1 moved everybody.
Oh!
It started the movement.
Kick the tooth.
You know, Hoist Gracie put jiu-jitsu on the
glove,
map.
like one glove.
Yes, one glove, one hit wonders. He has Reebok pumps on. This is amazing. So the thing is UFC 1 was amazing. That better be in your list, Kenny. And at number 1, the fight that I think moved the modern generation and got everyone into the UFC and really put UFC on the map. I remember people calling their friends who called their friends who called my mom, who texted me or paged me to tell me to tune in to Spike TV and watch Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. A page. She paged me.
Oh, okay.
911. Turn to this channel. And you turned to these two guys, putting it all on the lines. There was no loser that night. That was the fight that I think it kind of put us on the map, man. I cried a little bit, I think. Ben Rothwell, I feel you, man. I cried.
I love that fight because everyone forgot that I fought Diego Nunes.
I
did Diego Sanchez.
I
Sorry,
left that out of it, bro. I left it out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Everyone
of course.
forgets it.
Of course.
I like that.
Yeah, I left that out of it.
Yeah, and that's a solid
really
list.
good
Thank you,
list.
sir.
I went a little bit of a different way. We got some similarities. So, all right, let's get things started
Bring
here.
it.
UFC 4.
Okay.
You know why? Because this is the one that got me to start training and fighting and all that jazz. He beat 3 monsters back in the day. UFC 4, of course, beat the guy with the mustache. Dan Severn by triangle. It was unbelievable. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm training. I get it. Jiu-jitsu works. Now, number 4, UFC 52. Why do I say UFC 52? Because there were a lot of classic fights. Of course, we have Trigg and Hughes. But the one coming off, The Ultimate Fighter, this was the one that really was just unbelievable. Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell when they threw down. Just an awesome card, a real classic right there. And number 3, Brendan Schaub, we absolutely agree. UFC 100, how can you not have UFC 100? It was, I think, still the biggest pay-per-view of all time. Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, GSP, Thiago Alves. Just a great card, top to bottom. I was there live for it, so a special night for me. And number 2, UFC 189, because if you look at this pay-per-view, every single fight was bananas. I mean, just dramatic endings. 2 flying knee knockouts. Of course, there was the Robbie Lawler, Roy McDonald fight, perhaps the best title fight of all time. Sinead O'Connor was out there singing. I mean, of course, Conor McGregor fought Chad Mendes in a barn burner while it lasted. Just a great, great card. And of course, number 1. You gotta have it in here, Shabby, and you did. UFC 1.
Of course,
This is
Patty.
what started it all, bruh.
Of course.
Like, it started it all. How do you not have UFC 1, Jen?
Because I knew you were going to have it at 1. I knew you were going to have
It's
this at 1.
my favorite thing ever that ever happened. UFC 1.
Ever. You should get a
Favorite
tattoo
event-
that
not
says UFC 1.
Not favorite UFC event. This is my favorite.
Favorite.
Of anything.
Of anything.
He somehow ties it.
No, give me UFC 1.
He somehow ties UFC 1 into every single show.
I love it.
And
Look,
does
and how
anyone
great
notice
is it
that?
that we have
Horace
a top
Gracie,
5
UFC 1.
that he can
Gracie
say.
1.
all
Jiu-Jitsu
it is.
What's
1.
your most
UFC
inspirational
1.
moment? UFC 1.
UFC 1.
I love it. Hey,
I
you
need
know
help.
What? You know what? I'm so happy that you have something that moves you so much.
And you tell us every day.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah, like bowel movements. That's how much I love UFC 1. It moved me in that way, too.
That's intense.
That is so. that is
so
so making.
intense.
That is so making our highlight
That is
reel.
getting
All
edited
right,
out
like
for
bowel
sure.
movements. All right, we are gonna take a break. Coming
Sorry.
up next is our social
I'm
media
so
segment,
sorry.
Rapid Fire. You guys send in your questions to us at UFC_now with our hashtag UFC Now, and Ken Flo and Big Brown are going
I need to settle
see,
down.
To answer your questions.
Here's a
next.
question. Who loves anything more than Kenny and UFC 1?